thank you very much. I'm going to introduce now our speakers this morning, who are from all of the major forest areas of the world. So first of all, we have Don Macedonio Cordavi, of the Aliança Mesoamericana para Pueblos y Bosques. We have JUDITE GUAJAJARA with the APIB, which is the major umbrella organization for all of the indigenous leadership groups in Brazil. We have Robinson Lopez representing COIMBRA, which is the coordinator for the Amazon of all the indigenous groups of the 9 countries of the Amazon. We have Monan with AMAN, which is the major organization that represents all of the indigenous peoples of the archipelago of Indonesia. And then my name is COIMBRA SIRICA, and I will be moderating. We're going to start first with Don Macedonio and a slideshow that he has to accompany his talk. ¿Quiere empezar ahora?
Buenos días a todos y todas. Es un gusto estar acá con ustedes para compartir lo que las comunidades forestales de Petén
Good morning, everyone.
en Guatemala.
I'm here to share what forest community in Guatemala are doing.
Quisiera compartir unas diapositivas muy rápidas que son 5 básicamente.
I want to share with you some
como
PowerPoint
las
presentation
concesiones forestales en Guatemala, en Petén,
showing the community forest concession in Petén.
evitan los incendios forestales.
It's the forest to control the fire in the forest.
Así de que vamos a compartir esta experiencia en breves minutos.
We're going to share this experience around 3 minutes.
La otra lámina, por favor. Nos demuestra cómo las comunidades cuidan sus medios de vida.
This slide is showing how communities work their livelihood.
Esta experiencia ha demostrado cómo las zonas donde las comunidades hacen un manejo forestal y viven de los recursos está mejor conservado.
This is how they live based on the conservation of the resources.
Porque son los medios de vida de los cuales viven las comunidades y por ello es que los protegen diariamente.
They protect it daily because their livelihood is based on this.
La siguiente lámina quisiera hablar de qué es lo que hacen las comunidades.
In the next slide, I'm going to talk about what the communities are doing.
Datos del año pasado.
According to last year records,
$412,000 que fueron invertidos en control y protección de acuerdo a los datos estadísticos para proteger, prevenir en este caso y combatir los incendios.
Was an investment about $400,000 to prevent fires.
1000 patrullajes alrededor de todo el área para poder controlar estos incendios.
Around 1,000 patrolling around to prevent this fire.
Estamos hablando de más de 400 kilómetros que las comunidades controlan y vigilan.
We are talking about more than 400 kilometers that the community control and surveil.
Para el control y protección.
For the control and protection.
Eso tiene en estas zonas que solamente el 0.4%
In these zones, this is only the
es la
0.4%.
deforestación.
It's deforestation.
Esto contribuye que la reserva de biosfera maya está conservada en un 70% por el apoyo de las comunidades.
This contribute that so far 70% of Mayan biosphere reservation is controlled
Hay comparaciones de los incendios forestales
There is some comparative of the forest fire.
del 0.8% en las zonas que manejan las comunidades,
Starting from 0.8, the ones that are used are controlled by community concessions.
comparativamente en el 53% en las zonas que no son manejadas por comunidades o en este caso parques.
Comparing with the 53% that other zones that are not managed by the communities.
Esto es lo que podemos mostrar que las comunidades hacen en la reserva de la biosfera maya.
This is what we can show what community do in the Mayan biosphere.
O sea, 28 veces menos incendios en las comunidades que en las zonas que están a cargo del gobierno.
That is to say 28 times less than the ones that are not under the community control.
Esto significa que 7 veces
Meaning that 7 times
es más controlado el bosque y más protegido por las mismas comunidades
the
que
forest is
por
better controlled for
los
the
sistemas
communities
institucionales del gobierno.
than the government institutions.
Esta es la experiencia que quisiéramos compartir con ustedes y estamos abiertos a preguntas.
And this is the experience we want to share with you. I'm open for any question.
Muchas gracias.
Okay, very much. Now, COIMBRA.
Muchísimas gracias. Como han visto, I'm sorry, wrong language. As you can see, Don Macedonio is talking about a dramatic difference between what happens in the community and what happens outside the community. Now I'm going to ask Judite to speak. She is from GUAJAJARA, from Brazil.
Oi. Bom dia, eu sou Judite, sou do povo Guajajara, que fica ao norte do Brasil. Estou aqui compondo a delegação da Articulação dos Povos Indígenas do Brasil.
Good morning, I'm Judite Guajajara from the north of Brazil, Maranhão, and I'm part of the delegation of APIB, the Articulation of Indigenous Peoples of Brazil.
Bom, um pouco da realidade que é o Brasil, vocês puderam acompanhar no vídeo que foi mostrado aqui. Ele representa, na verdade, ele retrata um pouco do que acontece no Brasil de forma geral.
From the video that we just watched, you can see a bit of what is the reality of fire in Brazil.
Eu gostaria de começar contando para vocês que aos 13 anos de idade, eu passei por um ritual chamado a Festa da Menina Moça, ou Festa do Moqueado.
I would like to say that when I was 13, I went through a ritual, which is called the festival of the young girl, or also it's called the festival of the moqueado, which is the smoked meat.
É um momento crucial para a vida de nós mulheres guajajaras, porque ele representa um momento de passagem da fase da adolescência para a fase adulta.
It's a critical moment in the life of a Guajajara woman, because it's when she makes a transition from being an adolescent to a woman.
E para que esse momento se realize, nós precisamos de dois elementos principais. O primeiro são as nossas vestimentas de penas de pássaros e a segunda são as nossas caças tradicionais.
And for this festival, we need two essential elements. One is the feathers for the ritual, the vestments, and the other is the meat from game.
Porém, eu tenho grande receio de que a geração após mim não consiga mais passar por esses rituais, porque os incêndios na nossa terra têm destruído a nossa floresta e junto com isso os nossos pássaros e os nossos alimentos tradicionais.
but I'm very worried that the next generation of women will not have this ritual because the fires have been destroying a large part of our lands, and with it the feathers and the game that we need for this ritual.
Por 3 anos seguidos, a terra indígena Araribóia queimou e queimou metade da nossa terra, onde habitam tanto nós Guajajara quanto nossos parentes isolados, o povo Guajajara.
So in the past 3 years, fires have destroyed more than half of the Araribóia indigenous land where I live. And this has affected not just us, the Guajajara, but also the isolated peoples called the Guajajara.
Antes de tudo, é importante ressaltar 2 coisas. Que o fogo, ele tem 2 versões, digamos assim. A versão no sentido de que é aquele fogo que a gente maneja e que a gente trabalha com ele, e aqueles incêndios que são criminosos.
Above all, it's important to point out 2 things, and that is that there's 2 kinds of fire. One is that fire that we manage, and the other is that there is another fire, which is the destructive fire, often set by outsiders.
E às vezes nossos governos e nossos estados tentam englobar isso tudo em uma coisa só para tentar nos criminalizar.
And what happens is that governments and agencies tend to lump these 2 kinds of fire together and then blame us, criminalize us for these fires.
É importante aqui ressaltar que o fogo, ele faz parte, ele é essencial para nós enquanto indígenas. É ele que usamos para caçar, porque a gente toca fogo na mata, em um pedaço de mata, para que os animais se localizem em um local só. É dele que utilizamos o mel para que a gente consiga fazer nossos rituais de passagem para outro mundo. E é dele também que nós utilizamos para nossa alimentação e para as nossas roças.
Okay, so fire is an essential part of our culture. We use it when we burn areas to concentrate the game so that we can hunt them. We use it to clean around areas, and we also use it when we prepare areas, open areas to do our agriculture.
E é nisso que eu justifico a minha fala hoje. Por isso que nós estamos aqui falando de incêndios florestais e por isso que a gente está aqui falando de fogo, porque ele é essencial para nós e nós indígenas sabemos como trabalhar, como manejar ele.
So that's why we are here today to talk about this aspect of fire, that is part of our culture and that we know how to manage this fire.
Das práticas que a gente utiliza para combater os incêndios florestais, na verdade a gente começa no processo de mais precaução, que a gente tem uma característica muito forte entre nós, que é a questão dos aceiros.
Okay. To begin with, we use the fire mostly in terms of protection, and one of the big points here is that we use the fire to make fire breaks.
O que são os aceiros? Nós limpamos ao redor das matas, ao redor das casas, as estradas e também algumas roças e plantios para que quando vier a época da seca e o fogo, às vezes até espontâneo, não atinja as nossas aldeias, como aconteceu há alguns anos na terra indígena Araribóia.
So we use the fire in diverse ways. One is to clean around roads, to make these fire breaks along the roads, around the houses, and around our fields too. And so this is a way to keep, when there's a bigger fire, to keep it from destroying, as was the case of burning houses.
O que ocorreu justamente porque o Estado brasileiro tentou implantar, como vocês viram no vídeo, uma política de fogo zero.
And this happened, the houses burning, because the government had this policy of zero fire.
Pelo fogo zero, o Estado entendeu que a gente deveria eliminar o máximo possível as nossas queimadas e com isso a gente ficou proibido de fazer os nossos aceiros, o que acabou alimentando os combustíveis naturais dentro das florestas.
Because of this policy of zero fire, we were told to not burn at all anywhere, and because of this, we stopped making these fire breaks with fire, and this led to bigger fires.
Além desses aceiros que nós fazemos, é importante lembrar também a nossa parte espiritual, que é intrínseca, no sentido de que nossos avós e nossos tios sempre nos aconselham quanto aos cantos, quanto às formas de trabalhar a terra para que ela nos respeite e nós respeitamos ela.
And so fire is another aspect of the whole cultural question that our elders teach us about how to learn from nature, how to respect nature.
Com essa política de fogo zero, no estado do Maranhão, principalmente, ocorreram muitas queimadas, principalmente nas 11 terras indígenas do estado, o que acabou saindo do controle do estado.
Okay. Because of this zero fire policy in the state of Maranhão, there were in 11 indigenous lands there were many severe fires.
E por justamente não conseguir controlar esse fogo, o Estado brasileiro foi atrás dos indígenas para contratá-los através de brigadas chamadas de pré-fogo.
And because of this problem with the fires, the government then went to the indigenous people and looked for a way for them to help out. This led to the creation of the indigenous fire brigades.
E contrataram indígenas para que durante 6 meses do ano, se contrata indígenas através do seletivo, durante 6 meses do ano, para que eles possam estar combatendo esses fogos com suas práticas locais financiadas pelo Estado.
So during 6 months of the year, indigenous people are hired with a selection process and to work on combating fires.
Porém, o que ocorre é que existe a necessidade de que o Estado valorize ainda mais essas práticas tradicionais dos povos indígenas no combate aos incêndios florestais, reconhecendo que essas especificidades, esses conhecimentos são nossos e não deles, e que eles não só utilizem nossas práticas, mas que eles reconheçam que essas práticas são nossas e que elas são eficazes, porque a exemplo da nossa terra, depois dessas brigadas, os incêndios diminuíram.
Okay, but it's important that the government recognizes that the source of this management is our indigenous knowledge, and this is very important. And because also that after the indigenous peoples, after these fire brigades have been created, the incidence of fires has dropped.
Daí a necessidade que a gente tem que o Estado não só reconheça os nossos direitos territoriais, mas que eles garantam políticas públicas de proteção e de valorização dos nossos conhecimentos tradicionais.
So what we need is, besides this kind of protection, we need policies that recognize and value our traditional knowledge and incorporate them into the politics.
Essa era de forma geral a contribuição que eu queria dar e me coloco à disposição para possíveis perguntas.
So that in general is what I came to say, and I'm available for any questions.
Thank you very much, Judith. That was very important, especially the point you ended with, ensuring that traditional knowledge as well as land rights are protected and that can help the world in terms of preventing forests and addressing the wildfires that are consuming so much of the world. Now we're going to open up to Robinson Lopez from Colombia.
Hola. Muchas gracias, COIMBRA. Quiero saludar en nombre de la COICA, de los 9 países, a todos los presentes. Saludar también a nuestro coordinador general, Gregorio Mirabal, que se suma a esta delegación desde el día de hoy. Decir que COICA es una organización internacional que agrupa 9 países, con una extensión territorial cerca de las 7 millones de hectáreas de biomasa, con una población de 2.5 billones de personas.
With a population about 2.5 million of inhabitants.
Es importante señalar algo aquí, que es que en el 2005 se registraron 850.000 hectáreas de deforestación que causan realmente preocupación en todos los gobiernos y principalmente en los gobiernos indígenas, de los cuales también es importante resaltar.
It's important to point it out.
850.000 hectáreas de bosque en deforestación en el 2005.
It's important to remark there were 285 hectares of deforestation in 2005.
Estudios científicos señalan que de eso el 8%
pointed out, studies pointed out that the 8%
corresponden a deforestación en territorios indígenas.
correspond to the indigenous territory.
El otro porcentaje corresponde en territorios fuera de pueblos indígenas,
The rest
lo cual es muy grave.
correspond to territories outside the indigenous,
Pero demuestra que los pueblos indígenas
that show the indigenous people
estamos preparados
we
para
are ready
proteger nuestros bosques.
to protect
y
our
conservarlos.
forests and conserve.
Esas acciones que han ocurrido dentro de nuestros territorios pues no corresponden a hechos surgidos del interior de nuestros pueblos.
These situations that have happened inside our territories are not from our responsibilities.
Si nos situamos en la Amazonía colombiana
If we put in the Colombian Amazonian
y
region,
en toda la cuenca, sabemos que la
All the
climatología es muy diversa.
and we know that it's a lot of diversity.
Es un clima tropical lluvioso en algunas regiones,
It's a tropical rain weather,
húmedo,
moist, a lot of moist,
pero muy rico en biodiversidad,
that very, very rich in biodiversity.
lo cual en temas relacionados con incendios forestales
So when our topic related to the fires in the forest,
se registran al norte del país, en
Sí.
territorios desérticos y
Sí.
centro del país.
observed in the north where are more desert region and in the center of the country.
Pero es muy importante llamar la atención en este momento
That is so important now to recall the attention in this moment
al tema relacionado con la inclusión del conocimiento tradicional
to the issues related to the inclusion of the traditional knowledge
de los pueblos indígenas.
of the indigenous people.
Los pueblos indígenas originarios amazónicos
Indigenous people from the Amazon,
a través del conocimiento tradicional,
through traditional
la
knowledge,
medicina, el saber ancestral,
they promote the ancestor knowledge.
pues hemos logrado a través de fórmulas
We have
tradicionales
achieved through traditional formulas
tener una armonía y un conocimiento especial de cómo poder enfrentar en el futuro estos retos como los incendios forestales producidos tanto por el hombre como los incendios que se hacen para el cultivo de la chagra o las quemas, perdón.
special knowledge to confront how to face the fires provoked by humankind and the one that we use for traditional cultivation of chakra.
En esto nuestros sabios nos han enseñado
This is our ancestors have shown us
Sinchi y Hacha,
Sinchi and Acha,
que quiere decir en nuestra lengua sabio, conocedor de la medicina tradicional.
meaning in our language, knowledge about traditional medicine.
¿Cómo se debe controlar
How we can control
las quemas para hacer nuestras chagras?
the burns to make our chakras.
Y nuestras chagras están relacionadas con la supervivencia nuestra,
And the chakras are related with our own survival,
con el cultivo de la medicina,
with the medicine cultivation,
con el cultivo de las especies para el consumo, para la soberanía alimentaria, para la seguridad alimentaria.
cultivation related with food security.
Pero también hemos mirado cifras muy alarmantes en el tema de fuego, principalmente en California,
But we have realized that also very concerning figures of fire, especially here in California,
incendios que cada vez más se están generando en el continente
and fire that each time are spreading more around our continent.
y son producidos
And they are produced
justamente por acciones humanas
exactly after human actions,
equivocadas,
wrong actions.
megaproyectos petroleros, mineros,
Mega projects from oil or mining,
que cada día están afectando la biomasa, que están afectando los territorios.
they are affecting biomass and territories.
Entonces la fórmula para poder combatir el fuego está en el conocimiento tradicional.
Then the formula to face the fire is the traditional knowledge.
De la importancia de poder, a través de la alianza global,
The
darle
importance to the global
tanto
trade,
la importancia,
given them the importance,
la relevancia
the relevance,
a nuestros sabedores.
or nuestro knowledge.
A través de ellos podemos hacer intercambios con diferentes pueblos,
Through them we can make exchanges with different people.
así
different
como
nations.
hicimos un intercambio con el pueblo Yurok,
The way we did it
en
with
Claman,
the people in Claman,
donde a través de nuestro pensamiento y nuestro saber pudimos dialogar con sus ancestros.
where we, with our knowledge, we can have a dialogue with their ancestors.
Hoy quisiera que nos dieran la oportunidad de escuchar
We now want to have the opportunity to listen
a una autoridad en este tema del conocimiento que ha venido desde la Amazonía colombiana, desde muy lejos,
an authority who has joined us here from
haciendo grandes
in
esfuerzos,
Colombia after big efforts.
grandes esfuerzos porque normalmente ellos no salen de su territorio, pero en esta oportunidad nos está acompañando el taita Pablo Maniguaje Yaiguaje del pueblo Siona, y él nos ha contado una historia referente a cómo se apagan estos incendios forestales desde la medicina. Sería muy importante que en 3 minutos lo escucháramos.
This time he wants to invite the Taita
Pablo Maniguaje Yaiguaje.
Pablo Mariba del Guaje. This is from the very isolated region from Colombia that is had come after very hard effort. He will try to be
Entonces,
presenting a brief experience on controlling fires.
escuchemos al taita, que él seguramente no nos va a acompañar en otras delegaciones, pero ha venido de muy lejos y él respecto al fuego tiene algo que decirnos. Taita, muchas gracias.
Please give him a welcome to Taita.
Muy buenos días.
Good morning.
Primeramente, por darle gracias a nuestro Padre Celestial
First
que
of all,
nos
I want
está
to thank
acompañando en esta
our
reunión.
Father being here.
Yo me llamo Pablo Maniguaje, soy de Colombia, departamento de Putumayo, fronteras con Colombia y Ecuador.
I am Pablo and coming from the town bordering Ecuador and Colombia.
Pues mirando en las gráficas aquí en el tablero,
What's up there?
las quemas,
Watching the graphics here on the board, seeing about the burns.
nosotros como indígenas de la Amazonía,
We as indigenous from the Amazonia,
la candela es importante y a la vez también es mala.
the fire is good, but at the same time is bad.
Nosotros como indígenas tenemos sus tiempos limitados para la quema.
We as indigenous people have limited time for burning.
Tiempo atrás, nuestros antepasados tenían su ciencia espiritual.
Long ago, our ancestors had their spiritual side knowledge.
¿Qué tiempo era el tiempo de hacer quemas y el tiempo que no era hacer quemas?
Which was the right time to do the burns and which were not.
Como acaba de decir nuestra compañera del Brasil,
As our
teníamos sus chakras
colleague from Brazil, we have our
Limitados.
chakras limited
para la quema,
for burning,
para nuestra chagra,
for our chakra,
para el sostenimiento de nosotros.
for our livelihood.
¿Por qué? Porque nosotros, si hacemos quemas grandes,
Because if we do big fire,
nosotros estamos dañando la madre tierra,
we are
la
damaging
naturaleza,
our mother
porque ahí
nature,
vive la comida que es de nosotros,
because there is where
Ahí
our
está.
food coming from.
la farmacia de nosotros,
There is our
ahí
medicine,
está el agua
there is the water,
y la naturaleza que nos da el aire para nosotros poder vivir.
and the nature that provide us the air to we can survive.
Por eso hoy en día nosotros
For this reason, in this day,
que no han dejado nuestros abuelos, nuestros padres,
what are,
nosotros por eso, nosotros cuidamos nuestra naturaleza porque ahí está la vida.
after our parents, our ancestors, we taking care of the nature and the life.
nosotros tenemos un tiempo para la quema, otro tiempo ya no lo tenemos.
We
Porque
have time to burn every
cada
time.
año, de enero a febrero, es el tiempo de verano para nosotros.
From January to
De enero a febrero.
January, February is time for the.
Ahí son las quemas para nosotros, para la chaga.
This is the time for the
Ahí para adelante ya
burning
es
for
tiempo de
chagras.
invierno.
Then the
Entonces,
rainy
no
season,
hacemos las quemas.
we don't do any burn.
Cuidamos nuestra naturaleza para poder vivir nosotros.
And we take care of the nature so we can survive.
En caso, gracias, mis queridos estimados compañeros.
Thank you very much, my dear
Que
friends.
Dios nos bendiga y
Comrades.
seguir fortaleciendo nuestra naturaleza
God
y para nuestra vida.
bless you and continue protecting nature for our
Bueno, ese es el
survival.
mensaje sabio Pablo Maniguay, muchas gracias. Y
Okay.
pues como COICA estaremos escuchando sus apreciaciones.
Very much, and we will be waiting for your concerns.
We are going to hear from AMAN of Indonesia. Thank you.
Terima kasih. Di Indonesia ada berbeda-beda tipe lahan. Ada 3 tipe lahan. Pertama itu tipe lahan yang padang sabana atau area lahan yang lelumputan untuk biasanya pengembalaan hewan-hewan ternak.
Okay, in Indonesia we have 3 types of lands. The first type is prairie for feeding the cattle.
Dan ada tipe lahan memang untuk areal pertanian atau membuka lahan untuk bahan-bahan makanan ataupun tanaman-tanaman untuk dimakan oleh masyarakat adat. Dan biasanya ini lahan-lahan di sekitar kawasan hutan.
The second type of land is a place for agriculture and dry farming, where the communities cultivate plants for their daily needs, for their food supply.
Dan ada juga tipe lahan atau areal di masyarakat adat yang gambut. Ini rawa-rawa yang digunakan masyarakat adat untuk memelihara ikan-ikan dan juga tanaman-tanaman untuk handicraft ataupun kerajinan-kerajinan tangan.
And the third type is peatland, where the communities conduct fish cultivation or fish farming, and also can have a supply for their handicraft products, like rattan, for example.
Nah, masyarakat adat melakukan metode pembakaran lahan secara tradisional atau dengan menggunakan pengetahuan tradisional itu di lahan-lahan yang padang sabana untuk menumbuhkan rumput-rumput yang segar ataupun makanan ternak yang segar.
Usually, the indigenous people or local communities burn the prairie to allow fresh grass to grow, so that they can feed their livestock and cattle.
Dan kemudian membakar lahan untuk yang areal pertanian itu di lahan-lahan dengan cara metode sekat bakar dan melokalisir areal-areal tersebut. Kemudian menyesuaikan dengan jadwal-jadwal atau sistem waktu tradisional kapan waktunya membakar untuk tanaman pertanian masyarakat adat.
And they also burn the area for agriculture and dry farming, and they use fire break technique where they get rid of every combustible materials and also put some water along the fire break.
Nah, untuk yang di areal gambut, biasanya masyarakat adat itu justru mengontrol ataupun mengawasin areal tersebut dari musim kering yang berkepanjangan, sehingga jika terjadi ada titik-titik asap, masyarakat adat sudah siap untuk mengontrol dan memadamkan api.
we usually burn in the right time between dry season and rainy season. And as regard big lands, indigenous peoples and local communities is actually controlling the area from fire, where in case there is a fire hotspot, they will take immediate action to control the hotspot so that there's no further fire.
Ya, masyarakat adat menyebutnya atau kita menyebutnya masyarakat adat tanggap atas asap.
In Indonesian context, we have a sort of a mechanism or system or initiative that we call fire or smoke responsive indigenous people.
Nah, bencana datang, bencana kebakaran atau bencana asap di Indonesia datang itu karena perusahaan-perusahaan yang mendapatkan konsesi dengan area skala besar di lahan-lahan gambut.
So fire happens in Indonesia mostly because companies are granted concession in a very large or massive area of peatlands.
Dan lahan-lahan yang dibuka di kawasan-kawasan hutan yang di wilayahnya masyarakat adat.
And also concession to open lands and clear lands in indigenous territories or ancestral domain.
Perusahaan melakukan metode bakar untuk mereka mengurangi biaya dalam penanaman tanaman monokultur mereka.
So companies burn lands because it is the cheapest way for them to clear land and open land.
Dan mereka tidak melakukan kontrol atas pembakaran areal lahan yang mereka lakukan, terutama di areal-areal gambut.
And they don't control it, especially when they burn the peatlands, when they burn on peatlands.
Dan masyarakat adat di sekitar kawasan itu juga kesulitan untuk mengontrol jika sudah terjadi pembakaran yang luar biasa.
And indigenous peoples and local communities around the peatlands also have some difficulties to control because they have limited access to the area because it's already a part of the company's concession.
Tapi yang sangat disayangkan pemerintah justru menyalahkan masyarakat adat atas terjadinya pembakaran yang skala luas, padahal itu dilakukan oleh perusahaan.
The bad thing is the government always blame indigenous people for this fire, while we are not the perpetrator.
Sedangkan undang-undang lingkungan hidup itu melindungi teknik-teknik pembakaran masyarakat adat secara tradisional.
While our prevailing environmental law actually acknowledge the traditional way of burning lands of the indigenous people.
Karena yang dilakukan oleh masyarakat adat untuk menyelamatkan untuk menyelamatkan makanan-makanan ataupun mengisi lumbung-lumbung makanan mereka.
Because indigenous peoples and local communities in Indonesia, they only burn for their own needs to allow them to cultivate plants and fulfill their daily needs, to maintain their food security.
Sedangkan untuk perusahaan pembakaran dilakukan menghabisi sumber-sumber pangannya masyarakat adat dan mereka justru mendatangkan bencana yang begitu besar.
While companies burn to get rid of all natural resources and source of livelihood of indigenous peoples and also cause damage and wildfire.
Jadi pemerintah harus mengakui dan melindungi hak masyarakat adat, terutama dari wilayah-wilayah adat, harus membuat persetujuan atas penggunaan wilayah-wilayah masyarakat adat.
So it is important for the government to acknowledge the right of indigenous people over their land and their ancestral domain, so that they can control, they can manage their territory sustainably.
Dan membuat persetujuan atas penggunaan dari areal-areal masyarakat.
And also they should seek for indigenous people consent, the prior informed consent from indigenous people before the government grants any concession to companies or private parties and
dan
other parties.
mengakui sistem pengetahuan tradisional masyarakat adat.
And also acknowledge the indigenous people and local communities' traditional way of managing forests.
Terima kasih.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Very quickly, I'm going to summarize what I've heard and we have heard here today. That when communities, traditional communities, indigenous communities have rights to their land and are able to exercise their traditional practices, they can outperform any other forest managers in preventing fires. Then we have obvious evidence that suppression of the traditional fire practices has led to out-of-control wildfires in many of the communities that these people represent. They're all saying that if we have strong rights, recognize also our traditional practices because they are key to our being able to contribute to preventing fires. Finally, that most important to them is that the traditional practices of fire prevention also clear land for them on a small scale that are important for their nutritional needs, for their spiritual needs, and also for ensuring that the companies that come in are not able to destroy the land and to destroy all of the natural resources that are so important to all of the people here. So in other words, land rights for indigenous people, land rights for traditional people are vital in preventing the wildfires that are causing so much problem globally. And finally, are there any questions? We have time for one or two questions. Does anybody here have a question for the audience? I mean for the speakers. Is there anything any of you would like to add to finish this? Yes.
Ya, satu lagi, atas pemerintah harus menghentikan bentuk-bentuk tuduhan dan kriminalisasi terhadap masyarakat adat, karena masyarakat adat sesungguhnya mengetahui dan mampu mengelola wilayah-wilayah adat mereka.
Just one simple point that it is important for the government to stop their allegation or stop blaming indigenous peoples, because in fact indigenous people know how to manage their land sustainably and also control fire.
Sí, rápidamente, el mensaje es que las organizaciones internacionales y la alianza debe trabajar en el fortalecimiento y la creación de programas efectivos para el conocimiento tradicional, el fortalecimiento de nuestros pueblos.
For strengthening of the people.
De lo contrario, simplemente vamos a colocar en los espacios
We are going to put in the spaces
temas generales,
general issues,
quizá discursivos, pero no estamos yendo a la práctica,
not exclusive, but we're going to the practice.
que es donde realmente necesitamos incidencia, fortalecimiento para que podamos proteger nuestros bosques en el futuro.
Incense and strengthen so we can protect our forests for the future.